In this comparative study, I will analyze the Swedish film Persona made in 1966, directed by Ingmar Bergman, and the Japanese film Perfect Blue made in 1997, directed by Satoshi Kon, through the lens of psychoanalytic film theory. This study will explore how both films depict identity fragmentation and repressed trauma through their unique cultural context and formalist elements. Psychoanalytic film theory, rooted in the works of Sigmund Freud and Jacques Lacan, examines how films reflect unconscious desires, repression, and the instability of selfhood. Psychoanalysis itself within film has been described as a method for investigating the unconscious activities of the human mind, interpreting the talk, dreams, and bodily symptoms of analytic patients. Both Persona and Perfect Blue depict protagonists whose identities fracture under psychological pressure. In Persona, the boundary between Elisabeth and Alma dissolves, mirroring Lacan's concept of the mirror stage, where there is a creation of the ideal version of self. Similarly, in Perfect Blue, Mima's struggle to reconcile with her past as an idol with her new identity as an actress reflects the psychoanalytic conflict between the conscious and the unconscious self. Both films use dreamlike imagery and other formless elements to visualize their characters' psychological distress, aligning with Freud's theory of repression and the return of the repressed. Bergman, known for his introspective storytelling, used Persona to explore identity and psychological instability in a rapidly changing society. Sweden in the 1960s was undergoing a cultural shift influenced by existentialist philosophy, psychoanalysis, and evolving gender roles, where Sweden became the most emancipated country in the world for women. Meanwhile, Perfect Blue reflects Japan's late 1990s celebrity culture and the loss of personal identity in the digital age. Mima's descent into paranoia parallels Japan's growing concerns over mass surveillance, online harassment, and the commodification of female idols, where at the time Japanese idols were artificial public persona and had a lack of autonomy. By comparing these films through psychoanalytic theory, I will examine how identity fragmentation, repressed trauma, and psychological unease are expressed through each director's formalist approach. While both films depict protagonists struggling with their sense of self, their respective cultural contexts and formalism shape how the psychological turmoil is presented and understood. Both Persona and Perfect Blue depict protagonists grappling with fractured identities. The film's use of psychoanalytic concepts, particularly Lacan's mirror stage and Jungian self-harmony, to explore psychological instability. Bergman visually represents identity fragmentation through superimposition, symbolizing the dissolution of boundaries between the two women, also reflecting the shifting anxieties for women within Sweden. Regarding Bergman, he used processes specific to cinema, such as the manipulation of space, not in order to create intellectual effects, but to convey psychophysical states that were integral parts of his moral themes. Elisabeth's muteness and emotional withdrawal serve as external manifestations of internal fragmentation, as she struggles to align her outer reality with her inner world. Her silence can be seen as a response to the overwhelming noise of modern existential uncertainty, aligning with Sweden's broader intellectual culture, which was heavily influenced by existentialist philosophy. Carl Jung states, "A person can meet the demands of outer necessity in an ideal way only if he is also adapted to his own inner world." Not only Elisabeth, but also Alma fail to do so, being a catalyst to their psychological dissonance. This moment reinforces identity instability by fracturing the film's narrative itself. Bergman disrupts reality, aligning form with theme. The film's manipulation of space, noted by Elsesser, immerses the viewer in the instability, making the fragmentation emit emotion rather than just being observed by the audience. Mima's psychological breakdown is depicted through formalist techniques like match cuts, jump cuts, and reflections, making it difficult to distinguish reality from delusion. Lacan's mirror stage theory states that identity is constructed through external images that we strive to embody. The image of a unified body does not tie with the underdeveloped infant's physical vulnerability. This imago is established as an ideal I toward which the subject will perpetually strive. Idol Mima represents this ideal I, a perfected version of Mima's self-image that she cannot reconcile with her shifting identity. This Lacan mirror stage is especially relevant in the context of Japan's idol culture, where performers are forced to present an idealized, externalized self, often at the cost of their personal identity. The disorienting match-on-action edits and nonlinear sequencing mirror her fragmented psyche. Jonah Lehrer states, "The human is not just a brain or any other part of it. The human being is a whole, and when she loses these parts, her sense of existence will decrease." As Mima loses control over her perception of self, her sense of existence weakens, reinforcing her psychological crisis. Both Persona and Perfect Blue utilize formalist elements to immerse the audience in the protagonist's fractured identities. However, Persona leans toward minimalism and stillness to express fragmentation, while Perfect Blue uses rapid, chaotic visuals to intensify psychological distress. Through a psychoanalytical lens, both reflect the fragility of self-perception and dangers of losing touch with reality. Another argument that can be made is both Persona and Perfect Blue explore psychological trauma through the horror of repression and the subconscious mind's revolt. In Persona, Bergman employs surreal imagery and fragmented narrative structures to manifest Elisabeth's suppressed anxieties. In many of the sequences where Alma is in the bedroom with Elisabeth, it serves as a moment of psychological blow to Alma's brain. Bergman's use of stark lighting and intimate framing isolates Alma, where she is constantly in the shadows, being held on by her traumas. The ghostly lighting of Elisabeth also represents how her presence haunts Alma, symbolizing the unspoken fears and repressed emotions that permeate their relationship. The ghostly lighting also is a spotlight of the weight of Elisabeth's silence for the audience to see. Bergman says that Persona is the result of a crisis truth that he himself went through, and when questioning what that truth is...
Det där blev till slut så svårt att jag tänkte att den enda formen av sanningen, det är alltså tigandet.
The silence and repression that Bergman feels is carried through the character of Elisabeth, reflecting the existential anxieties of Sweden in the 1960s. Bergman's films often interrogate these themes using silence, isolation, and surreal imagery to depict characters struggling with the weight of their inner turmoil. This is also evident in Cries and Whispers, 1972, also directed by Bergman, where, like Persona, presents characters who are unable to fully articulate their suffering, forcing their pain to manifest in unsettling, surreal ways. Similarly, Perfect Blue externalizes psychological trauma through its hallucinatory editing and shifting perceptions of identity. The film constantly disorients the audience, blending Mima's reality, nightmares, and film roles into an indistinguishable whole. The rapid cross-cutting between Mima's hallucinations and her waking life emphasizes how trauma distorts perception. Satoshi Kon says himself that the real-life images and the virtual images come and go so quickly in the film, sometimes you feel like you are losing yourself, a feeling mirrored in Mima's own unraveling identity. This thematic exploration of fractured reality and psychological instability is also presented in Kon's later film, Paprika, 2006, where the boundaries between dreams and reality blur in a similarly disorienting way. Both films employ rapid editing and transitions between the states of consciousness, immersing the audience in the protagonist's fractured mental states. Perfect Blue critiques the exploration of identity, where Mima's struggle reflects the real-life fears of idols losing autonomy over their image in the late 1990s and early 2000s. By manipulating cinematic form, both directors transform psychological trauma into something tangible and inescapable. Looking at both films, we can see that they both harness psychological unease by forcing characters and the viewers into an unfamiliar and disorienting experience. Persona constructs fear through silence and ambiguity, leaving many of Elisabeth's motivations and emotions unspoken. The absence of conventional dialogue in key moments amplifies discomfort, as does Bergman's use of extended takes where characters stare directly into the camera. The fusion of faces between Elisabeth and Alma, achieved through lighting and film exposure techniques, creates an uncanny effect, reinforcing the instability of identity. Shown in this clip, the same uncanny feeling of the son reaching out for the woman is a possible reflection of Bergman's past traumas with motherhood. This clip is a window to Bergman's life, where C.G. Jung would say it's possible to produce fantasies that come between the child and its mother as an alien and often frightening element. That psychological unease is promptly introduced to the audience. In Perfect Blue, fear of the unknown manifests in Mima's deteriorating grip on reality. The film's use of layered reflections and mise-en-scène manipulation, such as mirrors revealing different versions of herself, blurs the distinction between what is real and what is imagined. The shifting perspective leaves the audience as drifted as Mima, evoking a sense of dread rooted in uncertainty. Lacan says the real is that which is always in its place. It carries with all the imaginary connotations of the term in its place, but displaced. Mima's fractured perception of reality, where the real remains just out of reach, and she is trapped in a cycle of uncertainty. Her idol persona is in its place physically and displaced psychologically. Both films use these formulist techniques to immerse the audience in an experience of fear, making the unknown feel intimate and inescapable. Through their use of film form, Persona and Perfect Blue construct psychological thrill that transcends conventional theory tropes. Bergman and Kohn create immersive experiences where identity, trauma, and fear of the unknown become not just themes of visceral, tangible forces through their own respective countries and time periods. Through the film's explorations of psychoanalytic theory, both films have opened doors for a deeper psychological exploration in cinema. But how? Persona's fragmented narrative and exploration of duality help redefine how filmmakers engage with the subconscious, leading to later films such as Mulholland Drive, where identity and self-perception are challenged through psychological unraveling. Similarly, Perfect Blue's portrayal of the blurring lines between reality and illusion has influenced filmmakers like the popular Darren Aronofsky, using similar elements to explore the destruction of the psyche under societal pressures. Persona and Perfect Blue have shaped the evolution of film theory itself. They have pushed the boundaries of narrative structure, visual language, and and character development. Bergman and Cohn redefined what psychoanalytic theory can be, turning it into a deeply creative, introspective, and existential experience that resonates way beyond the screen.